Chapter 41 Repeatedly Ignoring School Rules. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Percy was kicking himself. Why had he tagged along when he had nothing better to do? Just looking at Harry and Ron, you could tell they were involved somehow. He'd wanted to give them a slap on the wrist, then let it go. Gryffindor prefects docking points from their own house was never a good look. Besides, one of them was his little brother, and the other was Gryffindor's golden boy, making it even trickier. But now there was a Slytherin in the mix. Favoritism wasn't going to fly. Ahem. Percy said, striking a pose of selfless duty. Okay, spill. What did you two do? Percy, no, Prefect, I swear, I don't know a thing. Ron blurted out, sounding genuinely wronged, but the second those words left his mouth, he shot a shocked look at Harry. If it wasn't him, it had to be Harry. Sure enough, Harry nodded. Ron's got nothing to do with it. It was me. Harry, I'm seriously disappointed. I've barely even been to the restricted section. You knew better. Percy gave Harry a sorrowful look. Between sneaking out of the dorm in the dead of night and breaking into the restricted section to read forbidden books, Gryffindor was looking at a 30-point deduction, and Harry would be grounded until Christmas was a distant memory. Aaron stepped in, stopping Percy's rant. Actually, it's not that big of a deal. I mean, come on, we've all been there, especially freshmen. Curiosity gets the best of you. It's the holidays, Christmas was yesterday. Cut him some slack, senior, do me a solid. And, I think Harry gets that he messed up. You. Percy hesitated. He knew Aaron was trying to get Harry off the hook. He didn't quite get it, but he didn't have a good reason to refuse. Fine. But there has to be some kind of punishment, or he'll never learn. Percy said sternly. How about Harry copies out the school rules during break, the whole shebang? Aaron suggested. And Ron can supervise. Harry just nodded glumly. He'd broken the rules, plain and simple. If he hadn't gotten caught, no problem. Now he had to pay the piper. Ron grumbled, the rule book isn't that thick. Harry'll be done in a day. That's your problem, Aaron shrugged. Alright, that's settled. I've got stuff to do. Percy said, practically leaping to his feet and heading for the door, eager to escape. Once Percy was gone, Ron pouted. Copying out the school rules. That's harsh, Aaron shrugged. Compared to losing points for Gryffindor, I'd say Harry got off easy. I was trying to get Percy to leave, but you two had to be stubborn. What was I supposed to do? We didn't know you were gonna show up with backup. Besides, Percy insisted on sticking around. Harry clapped a hand over Ron's mouth. Enough. I'll take the punishment. Compared to what it could have been, this is nothing. Good to know. But don't get too bummed. I told Ron to supervise. He can just let you skip it. Harry and Ron exchanged a look, the gloom vanishing in an instant, replaced by the sly grins of guys who just pulled off a fast one. Right. The punishment was set, but they were in charge of the execution. Given their friendship, this was practically a free pass. Ahem. Aaron leaned back on the sofa, crossing his legs. I'm genuinely surprised you went there, Harry. You seriously need to copy out those rules. I warned you, it's not a place you should be going. Do you even realize what Filch would have done if he'd caught you? All those points Hermione's been earning for Gryffindor wouldn't have covered it. Sorry. Harry said, hanging his head in shame. He didn't regret taking the risk of going to the restricted section, only that he hadn't been more careful. Don't apologize to me. I'm a Slytherin. What happens to Gryffindor is none of my business. I just don't want to deal with Hermione's bad mood when she gets back from break. Aaron's eyes narrowed, and both Harry and Ron felt the pressure. So, wanna explain the restricted section thing? Harry, what was with throwing the lantern on the ground? The books they're different. Harry said hesitantly, the memories of last night rushing back. Everything had been going smoothly. He was searching for clues about Nicolas Flamel, but when he opened one book, a hideous, terrifying face burst out of it. The word swam on the face, making it look even weirder. Then the face let out this blood-curdling scream, like it was trying to escape the book. It was the dead of night, and any 11-year-old would have been terrified by something like that. No duh, they're different. Why else would it be restricted? Aaron rolled his eyes, at a loss for words. Not only that, I ran into Mrs. Norris and Filch. Almost got caught. Yikes. You got lucky there. Still, I'm curious how you managed to break into the restricted section. Mrs. Pants might be a little more relaxed during the holidays, but it's not that easy. Harry's heart skipped a beat. After a moment's hesitation, he decided to tell Aaron about the invisibility cloak. He knew better than to try and be clever around someone as smart as Aaron. Besides, Aaron had treated him like a friend, so maybe it wasn't so bad to let him in on the secret. But before he could say anything, Ron blurted it out. It was the invisibility cloak. It's something he got from his dad. Invisibility cloak. Aaron perked up. That thing was rarer than his own magic carpet. That's a seriously rare magical item, but don't use it unless you have to. Some big-shot wizards think it's useless. Oh. Harry suddenly realized something. So that's why Snape almost caught me yesterday. Snape, Professor. ×2. Aaron and Ron were both taken aback. They knew Harry was looking for information about Nicolas Flamel, but why would Snape be there so late? Harry, what happened last night? Aaron asked seriously. I saw Professor Snape seem to be bullying Professor Quirrell, saying, I am not your enemy, you'd better figure out who you are loyal to. I don't know what it meant, but I'm sure Snape is up to something. As Harry spoke, he kept an eye on Aaron's reaction. In his mind, Snape was definitely up to no good and was trying to steal whatever was hidden. This was just a little warning for Aaron. No matter how much he respected Snape, he should be a little wary. Sure enough, Aaron's face clouded over, and Harry felt a little relief. What he didn't know was that Aaron wasn't suspicious of Snape, but was wondering if Snape knew that Quirrell was sharing a body with Voldemort. If not, there wasn't much to worry about. Snape might notice some of Quirrell's shifty behavior and issue a warning, but if he did know, it meant Voldemort was walking into a trap, and the danger in Aaron's future quests would be greatly reduced. Either way, it was good news. Harry, this stays between us, got it? You, me, and Ron. Nobody else, and for the time being, keep a low profile and try not to screw up, understand? Got it. I know this is serious. Harry said. Oh yeah, I found a magic mirror on the first floor when I was leaving. I saw my parents in it. What? Ron was stunned. Why didn't you tell me about this? I should have gone with you last night. We can go back. You can come with me tonight. Harry said. Aaron, wanna come? I can introduce you to my parents, maybe you can see what your family looks like, too. Aaron, so that's how it is. Me telling him to obey the rules was all for nothing. He wants to drag Ron into this mess, and me, too. What is this operation trying to pull off? Chapter 42. Secretly looking in the mirror in the middle of the night. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The next night, Harry, Ron, and Aaron squeezed under the invisibility cloak, tiptoed down the corridor, climbed a bunch of stairs, and ended up in an empty, dusty classroom. It looked like a storage room. Besides a jumble of tables and chairs, a really tall mirror leaned against one wall. That's it. That's the mirror I was telling you about. Harry couldn't wait to yank off the cloak and pointed excitedly at the smooth surface. See? Those are my parents. But I just see us, Ron said. Change your angle, stand over here. Harry tugged Ron to a better spot. Okay, can you see them now? Harry was about to point out his parents when Ron suddenly yelled, That's me. I'm head boy, holding the Quidditch cup. Awesome. And I'm Quidditch captain too. I'm so proud. Harry, does this mirror show the future? No way, Harry said, looking down, disappointed. My parents are dead. Definitely not, Aaron said knowingly. It's not showing you the future. What about you, Aaron? What did you see? Ron asked, interested. Let me take a look. Aaron stepped up to the mirror, and Harry and Ron moved aside after staring for a good 10 seconds. Aaron touched his chin, deep in thought. That's weird. What? Harry asked. Aaron shook his head. Weirdly enough, I just see myself. The mirror's doing something different with me. You mean you don't see your parents like Harry, and you don't become head boy like I do? Ron said, surprised. He then patted Aaron on the shoulder, looking sympathetic. You just see yourself. Guess these magic gadgets aren't for everyone. Would you mind taking your hand off me? Aaron rolled his eyes, then pointed to the mirror's gold frame. Maybe you should take a look at the inscription. Eris Stella Ohilu A Tweeby Kafulu Atong Vorhes, Aaron read aloud, stumbling over the words. Sounds like gibberish, and probably not anyone's name in the wizarding world. But it's not a name. It's a sentence, an explanation of the mirror. Try reading it backward. Harry and Ron exchanged glances, then looked at the frame together. In unison, they said, it shows us the deepest, most desperate desires of our hearts. So the mirror shows you what you want to see? Harry asked. Exactly. But why could you only see yourself? Ron asked, curious. Then his eyes widened. You don't have anything you want, do you? That's kind of sad. Whoa, hold on, Aaron said, shaking his head. Everyone has desires. I can't just not have any. It's just that my desires don't show up in the mirror. That's intense. So, what is your deepest desire? Aaron paused, then turned to Ron with a knowing smile. You think I'm gonna tell you? That's kinda personal. Ron grinned sheepishly. Just curious, is all. Well, maybe you should try being less curious. Aaron, can I have a turn first? Harry asked, a little embarrassed. I really want to see my parents. They're gone, so this might be the only way I can. Sure. Aaron moved aside, gesturing for him to step up. Thanks. Harry said simply, then stood quietly in front of the mirror. His eyes softened, and he reached out to touch the glass, a small smile playing on his lips. The warmth and joy of being reunited with his family was beyond words, but Aaron and Ron thought Harry looked a bit dazed. 10 minutes later, Ron hesitated, then asked, worried, you think he's okay? Yeah, he's just seeing the family he misses most. It's hard to tear yourself away from that. But you need to make sure he doesn't get lost in it. No matter how great it looks in the mirror, it's just a reflection. Remembering it and letting it motivate you is good, but wasting your time living in a fantasy is a tragedy. Ron just stared. Wow, okay. That's actually pretty deep. But why is this my problem? Seriously? You're Harry Potter's best friend. You guys are joined at the hip. Who else is gonna do it? Ron puffed out his chest, looking proud. You're right. As his best friend, I gotta pull him out. With that, Ron marched up to Harry and grabbed his arm. Harry, time for a break. Just a few more minutes. Nope, you've been staring for ages, Ron said righteously. Let me stare for a while. Aaron choked back a laugh. Is this what they call friendship? He thought they were close. Guess not. This plastic bromance was a bit disappointing. Ahem. Sorry to interrupt, but maybe we should go. Isn't it kinda boring staying up all night looking at a dumb mirror? Harry and Ron looked at each other, then shook their heads at the same time. Even if they knew it wasn't real, it still comforted their souls, so they wanted to keep looking. Aaron sighed and shook his head. Staring at this stupid mirror with you guys is the low point of my semester. Ha. Don't say that. Ron said awkwardly. Why don't you try again? Maybe I can see what you want. Nah, I'm good. I prefer to keep my feet on the ground. Maybe you should too, Aaron said, ignoring their weird looks and heading for the door. I'm gonna head out. Night, guys. Wait, Harry called out. You don't have the invisibility cloak. It's not safe. I've got my ways. Aaron held up a transparent vial, invisibility potion, with a knowing look, then opened the door and slipped out. I swear, sometimes he's more uptight than my mom, Ron said, his mouth twitching. Harry nodded, and as he was about to speak, they heard a loud bang. The door burst open, and Aaron rushed back in, looking panicked. Okay, we gotta go. But we might need to hide first. What? Why? I haven't seen enough yet. Harry protested. Yeah, me neither. Mrs. Norris is here. Does that do it for you? Ron froze. You mean that cat? Filch's cat. Who else? Before they could say another word, they heard a cat meowing. Harry and Ron instinctively jumped. Without another word, they grabbed the invisibility cloak and threw it over Aaron. A few seconds later, a pale yellow light shone through the doorway, and Filch shuffled in, holding a lantern. He scanned the classroom carefully but found no sign of rule-breaking students. Come on, my dear. There's nothing here. Mrs. Norris let out a mournful meow and took a few steps toward where the invisibility cloak was. The three boys held their breath and took a step back in perfect unison. Filch frowned and peered at the spot where Mrs. Norris was staring. There's no one there. You must be mistaken. But when they finally left, the three of them breathed a sigh of relief. Aaron emerged from under the cloak. Think we can go now? Definitely, Ron said, still rattled. He didn't want to stay another second. Harry still seemed reluctant. He slowly stroked the mirror of Eriste and said, I think I can look at it for a few more minutes. Filch won't be back for a while. Ha! Aaron chuckled. Harry Potter, you're so confident about breaking school rules. Ever think about what would happen if Filch suddenly came back? Yeah, Ron said. Harry, getting caught by Filch is not a good thing. We already made Percy mad once. If we get caught this time, we'll be too embarrassed to even look at him. But. No buts, Aaron interrupted. This mirror's not going anywhere. You can come back anytime. But right now, we have to leave. Ron nodded eagerly, grabbed Harry, and dragged him toward the door, whether he liked it or not. Chapter 43 Nicolas Flamel, maker of the Philosopher's Stone. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The Mirror of Eriste was a magical object that captivated Harry Potter, causing him to waste time and energy on pointless fantasies. For days, Harry would sneak off to that classroom whenever he could, sitting alone in front of the mirror, lost in staring at his parents. Even though he knew it wasn't real, he loved it. Then, on the third night, Dumbledore appeared. Here again, Harry. Dumbledore stood by the window, his shadow stretching across the wall next to Harry in the moonlight. Harry jumped, startled by the sudden appearance, and turned around, standing silently next to the mirror. It seems to me that you, like so many others, have discovered the allure of the Mirror of Eriste. I'm sure you know its magic by now. Dumbledore slowly approached Harry. Let me give you a hint. The happiest person in the world would look in this mirror and see only themselves, their own reflection. I know, Harry said. Like the inscription on the mirror says, it shows us our deepest, most desperate desires. Dumbledore smiled. Harry, you're a bit sharper than I thought. Harry scratched his head, embarrassed. Actually, I didn't figure it out myself. It was. He stopped, remembering that Aaron had secretly followed him. That was against the rules, and he didn't want to get him in trouble. Ah. It seems someone else has seen this mirror too. Harry, can you tell me who? Seeing Dumbledore's kind smile, Harry relaxed a little, thinking it might not be a big deal. But just in case, he said, you have to promise not to tell anyone, and that you won't punish him. Of course. I understand your desire to protect your friends, and that's perfectly all right. Honestly, sneaking in to look at the mirror isn't the end of the world. especially since you haven't been caught by Filch. Consider it a victimless crime. Harry was stunned. He couldn't believe the headmaster was saying this. Surprised? I used to be a Gryffindor, and breaking the rules was practically a hobby. But for your own good, don't make a habit of it. If you get caught, I'll have to act like I mean business. The most I can do is plead for leniency. But it depends on the situation. Okay. Harry felt relieved. Headmaster, it was Aaron. Aaron Gaius discovered the mirror first. Aaron? Aaron Gaius? Dumbledore's expression changed briefly, then returned to normal. I know him. He's quite talented on the Quidditch pitch. Yes, that's him. And Professor, he said he only saw himself in the mirror. Really? Then it seems I need to keep a closer eye on this impressive young wizard, Dumbledore said, smiling. Meanwhile, in the Slytherin dorm, Aaron sneezed violently, waking up and shivering. Why do I feel like someone's watching me? He muttered to himself, pulling the covers tighter and falling back asleep. Harry, you must remember that this mirror doesn't give us knowledge or truth. People waste away in front of it, even go crazy. There was a hint of warning in Dumbledore's voice, and Harry looked away, feeling guilty. So, we're moving this mirror tomorrow. And I advise you not to go looking for it. Obsessing over dreams and forgetting to live is never a good thing. Harry nodded silently, put on the invisibility cloak, and left the classroom. Dumbledore slowly closed the door and looked at his own reflection in the mirror of Eriste, a cheerful old man holding a pair of thick wool socks. Aaron Gaius? A Slytherin, and from the Gaius family, this could be tricky. I hope this doesn't complicate my plans. Otherwise, some adjustments will have to be made. Dumbledore's eyes gleamed with intelligence, then he raised his hand and vanished. The mirror of Eriste. The holidays were over, the snow around Hogwarts began to melt, and students returned to the castle to resume their studies. In the library, Aaron was looking through the dragon encyclopedia Jeans had sent him, pointing out each type to Abe. Across from him, Draco was also reading, but his two sidekicks were slumped on the table, fast asleep. Aaron, I really don't understand why you gave Abe a dragon book. A cat book would have been better. As soon as he said that, Abe jumped onto the table and hissed at Draco. If there weren't so many people around, it would have slapped him with its wings to show him some dragon respect. Draco blushed. Sorry, Abe, he said sheepishly. Just then, Hermione walked by behind Draco, carrying a thick, ancient book. When she saw Aaron, she stopped. Aaron, could you come over here? I need to ask you something. Sure. Aaron picked up Abe and closed the dragon encyclopedia. Don't wait for me, Draco. Got it. Hermione led Aaron to an empty table and slammed the book down. After a moment of hesitation, she said, I found Nicolas Flamel. Wow. Aaron raised his eyebrows. That's great news. Harry and Ron have been hitting the library every day, excited when they go in and bummed out when they leave. It's been making me nervous. Did you find out about Nicolas Flamel in this book? Yes. I plan to do some research over the holidays. Hermione turned to the entry for Nicolas Flamel. Nicolas Flamel is the only known maker of the Philosopher's Stone. The Philosopher's Stone is a magical substance of immense power. It can turn any metal into gold, and it can also create the elixir of life. Anyone who drinks it can live forever. The only remaining Philosopher's Stone belongs to Nicolas Flamel, who celebrated his 665th birthday last year. Aaron's mouth twitched. The immortal part is a bit of a stretch, but I never thought he actually lived for over 600 years. That's not the point. It's about Nicolas Flamel and the Philosopher's Stone. Hermione looked worried. I don't know if I should tell Harry and Ron about Nicolas Flamel. This could involve a priceless artifact like the stone, and that's way over our heads. Well, I think you should tell them. I don't know about anything else, but I'm sure there are more books about Nicolas Flamel in this library than that one. They were going to find him sooner or later. If we can't keep it a secret, we might as well tell them ourselves and save them some trouble. I guess you're right. You're looking for Nicolas Flamel because of the Philosopher's Stone, right? Hermione hesitated and then nodded. You probably guessed that. The Philosopher's Stone is here at school, and someone's trying to steal it? Yes. The stone was originally at Gringotts, but now Professor Dumbledore's hidden it in a room on the right side of the 4th floor, guarded by a 3-headed dog. Harry and Ron will probably assume Snape's trying to steal it. That's understandable. Snape's the only person at Hogwarts they dislike, maybe even hate, so he's the obvious suspect. 2 things are certain. 1, whoever's trying to steal it hasn't succeeded yet. And 2, the stone's hiding place is probably defended by more than just a 3-headed dog. That thing's too valuable. What if the dog falls asleep? Aaron, should we tell Professor Dumbledore? No, better not, Aaron said immediately. At least not yet. Why? Hermione looked confused. First, we don't have any proof that anyone's trying to steal the Philosopher's Stone, and no concrete evidence that Snape's the one behind it. Second, how did you know there was a Philosopher's Stone in the school? That's supposed to be a secret. Don't tell me you just guessed. Hermione pursed her lips. Hagrid accidentally let it slip. Great. Aaron shook his head. If you tell Dumbledore, Hagrid will definitely get punished, no question. But most importantly, telling Dumbledore might scare the thief off. The stone's heavily guarded now, but if they try to move it, the defenses will be weakened, giving someone a chance to take advantage. Chapter 44 Hagrid's Curiosity about Abe. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After Aaron finished his analysis, Hermione was silent. She knew he was right, but did that mean they were helpless? So, according to you, we just wait around? Not exactly. You can choose not to get involved, to remain unchanged while everything else does. Seeing her glare, Aaron shrugged. All right, no more jokes. All you can do now is find evidence. Ideally, you'd figure out who's pulling the strings. With solid proof, the problem's solved. Hermione frowned. That's easier said than done. Actually, it's not as tough as you think. You know someone's after the Sorcerer's Stone, you know where it is, and you know who's guarding it. That gives you a head start. Hermione's face brightened. You're right. If someone wants the stone, they have to get past Fluffy. Which means, Hagrid. Aaron snapped his fingers. Looks like you've got it. Exactly. If Hagrid keeps his mouth shut about Fluffy, the stone's safe. If he spills the beans, it means the mastermind's made a move, Hermione said firmly. There you go. You're sharper than I thought. Hermione blushed and smiled shyly. After a moment's hesitation, she said, Aaron, I need your help. Will you? Me? Aaron looked surprised. It's not impossible, but Harry and Ron probably won't want me, Snape's buddy, involved. Then we keep it from them. You're the smartest one here. With your help, it'll be much easier. Please. Fine, Aaron said, shaking his head with a wry smile. I can't say no to a pretty girl. Hee hee. Hermione smiled sheepishly, then grabbed her book. I'll go find Harry and Ron. They've been searching for Nicolas Flamel forever. Time to give them a lead. Wait. Aaron stopped her. I should share some thoughts I've been having. If someone's after the stone, they have to be an insider. That's a big clue. That means it's not just some student, got it? Hermione's face fell. You think there's a traitor? I'm not saying that, but it's possible. So, besides Hagrid and Dumbledore, trust no one, especially the professors. You don't want to get caught in the crossfire. Got it. Hermione said, grabbing her book and walking away. That was a decent warning, I think, Aaron muttered, stroking Abe. He picked up the dragon atlas and went back to teaching him about his own kind. He flipped to the Norwegian Ridgeback when he noticed a shadow on the desk. He looked up and saw Hagrid towering over him, a smile on his face and his beard quivering. Hagrid, you're in the library. What a surprise. Let me guess, looking for pet care books. Is that little troublemaker from the Forbidden Forest acting up again? Not at all. They're behaving perfectly. Then why are you here? Just browsing. Hagrid said hesitantly, but Aaron noticed his eyes kept darting to the dragon illustration. You want this? Aaron asked knowingly. Why would I? Hagrid chuckled nervously. Okay, fine. I wanted to take a look. Your book is really detailed, habits, diet, hatching tips, all of it. More than anything else in the library. So, could I? Well. Before Aaron could answer, Abe leaped onto the illustration, placing his white paw on it and shaking his head. That, I don't know. Abe's really possessive. If he says no, I can't do anything about it. Okay. Hagrid nodded sadly. When will you be done with it, then? Libraries have loan limits, you know. Let me know as soon as you're finished. Or I'll have a word with Madame Pants. She can hold it for me when you're done. Hearing this, Abe, who was only expressing mild annoyance before, bared his teeth, angrily slamming the book shut and squatting on top of it. Hagrid. Aaron, he's clearly not happy about it. But it's school property, after all. Woo! Abe let out a low growl that definitely didn't sound like any cat. It was soft, but Hagrid and Aaron, who were close by, heard it. That's. Hagrid's eyes widened as he stared at the tightly wrapped white cat in front of him, completely fascinated. Crap. Exposed. Aaron cursed silently and pressed Abe's head down, holding him close and covering his mouth to keep him quiet. It was uncomfortable, but Abe knew he'd just revealed too much, so he had to cooperate. Aaron, your cat is a bit unusual. Hagrid said meaningfully, slowly reaching out a huge hand towards Abe. He moved slowly, as if afraid of scaring him. What do you think you're doing? Aaron asked suspiciously. Hagrid looked like a kidnapper. Hagrid sheepishly retracted his hand, forcing a polite smile. Just curious, that's all, Hagrid said. My knowledge of animals is top-notch, but I've never seen a cat like that before. Hagrid paused and looked around carefully. Aaron, is it possible Abe isn't a cat? I'm pretty sure that meow wasn't something any ordinary cat could make. I have no idea what you're talking about. Abe's just a regular white cat. I've had him since he was a kitten. I get it. I get it. Hagrid lowered his voice conspiratorially. Maybe Abe just looks like a cat, but he's actually something else. Some rare breed, maybe. You know, caring for something that rare takes work. If you need help, I'm happy to. I don't need any help. Aaron snapped. He's just trying to get his hands on my holy dragon. Ha! Just saying. Hagrid laughed, then remembered his real reason for being there. Aaron, when will you be finished with that illustration? No idea. My uncle sent it to me, so it's not school property. Don't even think about it. Oh, Hagrid said, taken aback. Then, once you're done, could you lend it to me for a few days? I really need it. Aaron looked at the giant, amused. Since when are you so interested in dragons? I've always been fascinated by them, Hagrid said evasively. The Forbidden Forest is full of magical creatures, but no dragons. I've always wanted to raise one, but I can't, and the Ministry of Magic won't allow it. So I have to make do with books, that's all. Is that so? I don't know when I'll finish, but I promise I'll lend it to you when I'm done, Aaron said, hugging Abe tightly and picking up the book. Hagrid watched him leave, muttering to himself, that's definitely not a cat. But what is it? Some new magical creature? I'm so curious. Gotta find a way to borrow that book. Chapter 45. The blame is firmly on Snape. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Hermione told Harry and Ron that Momo was guarding the Sorcerer's Stone, and they were both stunned by its power. No wonder Snape wants to get his hands on it, Ron said, his brow furrowed. Having that stone is like having unlimited riches. And eternal life, Harry added. Hermione just rolled her eyes. Those two were always quick to blame Professor Snape for everything. Okay, so we know Momo's guarding the Sorcerer's Stone, and... Hermione paused. Someone's trying to steal it. Correction, Snape, Ron interjected. We don't have absolute proof that Professor Snape is the one trying to steal it. Let's be honest, everyone probably wants the Sorcerer's Stone, right? What more proof do you need? Ron scoffed. He practically wears his evil intentions on his sleeve. Plus, we saw him jinxing Harry during the Quidditch match with our own eyes. Doesn't that tell you something? Harry nodded in agreement. Snape was the obvious suspect, always making his life difficult. Who else could it be? All right. Hermione sighed, looking at their determined faces. Fine, let's say Snape's the one. The first obstacle he's got to get past is Fluffy. Dealing with a three-headed dog is super dangerous, so we need to keep an eye on Hagrid. If anyone, if Snape tries to subtly pump Hagrid for information. That's when he'll make his move. Harry's eyes widened. Suddenly, Hermione seemed like more than just a bookworm, she was actually pretty sharp. Exactly. And that stone's too valuable to have just one guard dog. Dumbledore definitely set up other defenses. And Snape's probably involved somehow, otherwise, how would he even know about the Sorcerer's Stone? Ron looked shocked. I thought you only had breakthroughs during exams. I didn't realize you were such a deep thinker. You'd make a great Auror after graduation. Hermione blushed slightly. Erin had figured most of this out, and she was just repeating it. Now she was getting all the credit, which felt a little awkward. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. The situation isn't as dire as we thought. At least, the stone's safe for the time being. That's good to know. Harry breathed a sigh of relief. Here's the plan. First, we keep a close watch on Snape. Got it. Ron agreed instantly. That's easy. I see him every day. Hermione rolled her eyes again, but nodded. Second, we try to find out from Hagrid who else was involved in protecting the Sorcerer's Stone. If Snape wants to get it, he'll have to figure out how to bypass the other obstacles. If we know what they are, we can track his progress. Third, there's Hagrid. We need to keep an eye on him to make sure he doesn't spill the beans about how to get past Fluffy. Don't forget number 4, Hermione reminded. We need to study for our exams. Exams? ×2, Harry and Ron exchanged horrified glances. Neither of them were stellar students. Exams were an unavoidable and dreaded part of their lives. No way, Hermione. Ron protested. The holidays just ended. The exams are ages away. Then we need a study plan, Hermione insisted. We've already wasted too much time on Nicolas Flamel. If I don't catch up on the material from class, I might not even pass the final exam. You, fail? Ron looked like he'd heard the funniest joke ever. If they weren't in the library, he would have burst out laughing. Harry was trying hard not to laugh too. Hermione, besides Erin, you're the least likely person to fail at Hogwarts. You know everything, you don't need to study. I don't need to study. Have you forgotten about my bet with Draco? If I lose, Erin has to do a favor for his family. And even I know how important these kinds of family bets are. Unfortunately, Draco's been working like crazy lately. Even Professor McGonagall, who doesn't usually care about Slytherins, has been praising him. So, you want to see Draco win? Harry and Ron immediately turned serious. Malfoy was the person they disliked the most, even more than Snape. If Hermione lost because of some slip-up and let him win, they'd be miserable for the rest of the school year. And facing Malfoy in the future would be even worse, since their strongest member had lost. Thinking of this, they looked serious. Hermione, you're right, Harry said. Studying is what's most important for students, and we can't waste time. I agree, Ron said solemnly. Hermione just stared at them. All that explaining, and it took Malfoy to get them on board. She could only blame herself for her choice of friends. Being a top student, Hermione quickly came up with a study plan for them, generously sharing her notes and supervising their studying closely. Even the teachers joined in, assigning extra homework. Study hard and make progress every day became the new normal for their free time, making the two slackers miserable, but even amidst the storm of studying, they still managed to devote most of their energy to keeping tabs on Snape and Hagrid. A few weeks later, at the gamekeeper's hut, Harry, Ron, and Hermione went to visit Hagrid, as they had been doing regularly. This was their 8th visit in the last few weeks. The first time they came, they told Hagrid straight up that they knew he was guarding the Sorcerer's Stone. Ever since then, they would accidentally ask, "Has anyone been asking about how to get past the three-headed dog?" But Hagrid's answers were always reassuring. "No one knows how to get past Fluffy except me and Dumbledore, and I'd never tell anyone else." And Snape hadn't done anything suspicious. He always had that scowl on his face, and sometimes he seemed extra grumpy. But the more he acted like that, the more relieved Harry and Ron felt. It meant the Sorcerer's Stone was still safe, and Snape hadn't succeeded yet. This time, they planned to ask different questions. Hagrid. Harry hesitated, then asked, "We want to know what other obstacles are protecting the Sorcerer's Stone besides Fluffy." Hagrid's face turned serious. "Why are you so interested in this?" "Harry, let me tell you again, this doesn't concern you." "Does that mean there really are other obstacles?" Hermione asked. "Like spells, enchantments, stuff like that?" "I can't say. It's a very important secret," Hagrid said, frowning. "Actually, I don't even know." "Okay." Hermione thought for a moment. "Do you know who designed those obstacles?" "Yeah, I do. It's..." Hagrid started with a proud smile, then his face turned serious again. "I almost let that slip, Hermione. It'd be bad if I told you. But it wouldn't be that bad." Harry pleaded. "Please, Hagrid, tell us. We already know about the Sorcerer's Stone. This is just as important." "Don't do that, Harry," Hagrid said with a smile, pushing Harry back into his chair. "Ever since I accidentally told you about Nicolas Flamel, you guys have been getting more and more out of control." "But someone's trying to steal the Sorcerer's Stone," Ron blurted out. "We're sure it's Snape." Hermione pursed her lips, hesitating. She wanted to say, "Not sure," but she didn't. "Snape?" Hagrid looked surprised. "I know most Gryffindors don't like him, but that's no reason to suspect him. Snape actually helped design some of those obstacles. There's no way he'd steal it. That's even worse." Harry looked upset. "That'd make it even easier for him to steal it." "Hagrid, he really doesn't know a way past Fluffy. I've said it 1,000,000 times." "No one knows but me and Dumbledore," Hagrid said impatiently. "Hagrid, you better tell us." Hermione pointed at Ron and Harry. "You don't think they're going to give up that easily, do you?" Hagrid looked at them, seeing the determination in their eyes. He sighed helplessly. "All right. But I have one small condition. I want to borrow Aaron's pet cat, Abe." Chapter 46 How to Abduct a Cat. You are listening at novelfull.audio. What? Hermione shot to her feet, her brow furrowed in anger as she glared at Hagrid. "Absolutely not. I don't agree with this at all." She continued, "And Hagrid, how could you even think of such a thing? Steal the cat? You've got to be kidding me. Shoo. Hagrid hushed, looking at the three of them sheepishly. I didn't say, steal, I said, borrow. I meant borrow the cat. That's impossible, Hermione said, exasperated. Hagrid, I don't think you understand. Aaron treats Abe like gold. He takes him everywhere, to class, he eats and sleeps with him. They're practically inseparable. Hagrid nodded. Yeah, I did a little digging myself, which is why I'm asking you. But... Harry was confused. Why do you even want a cat? There are plenty of cats at school. Can't you just switch them out? Ha ha. Hagrid chuckled, puffing out his chest. You don't get it. I've got a knack for spotting special animals. The moment you guys arrived at Hogwarts, I noticed there was something different about that cat. Come on, it's just a cat. Ron scoffed. No, there's more to it. There just is. I even wonder if it is just a cat. Hagrid insisted. You guys spend more time with Abe than I do. You must see that he's not that bright, right? He's just a pig, Ron muttered. A pig, huh? Hagrid perked up. What does he usually eat? Everything. Candy, cookies, cake, pudding, chocolate, potatoes, and he especially loves chicken legs. 9 times out of 10, he's got a chicken leg in his paws. Ron suddenly stopped, his eyes widening in disbelief. Oh my God. My life is worse than a cat's. Harry clapped Ron on the shoulder sympathetically. One was dependent on others, and the other was from a poor family. Compared to Abe, the cat, life was difficult. See? You can tell Abe is special just from his diet. Do normal cats have such a big appetite? Hagrid said. That just proves how much Aaron cares about Abe, Hermione said, shaking her head. Hagrid, I'm telling you, don't even try it. I didn't want to hurt it. Anyone who knows me knows that I never abuse animals and truly treat them as friends. I'm just curious and want to observe it closely. If you don't trust me, you can watch me. Harry forced a smile and shook his head. Hagrid, it's not that we don't trust you. It's just that this whole thing is too embarrassing, Ron supplied. Yeah, embarrassing. The embarrassment is just part of it, Hermione said, her face grim. More importantly, it'll tank Aaron's opinion of us. Exactly. Harry said, puzzled. Hagrid, why don't you just ask to borrow him yourself? If I could, I wouldn't be asking you, Hagrid said, throwing up his hands. Ever since I showed interest in Abe in the library, he's been watching me like a hawk. That's even worse. If Abe goes missing, Aaron's first thought will be you, Hermione pointed out. That's why I'm asking you to do it. I've been asking around, and aside from a few professors, Draco is the only one at Hogwarts who's really close to him. But there's no way he'd help me, he'd probably rat me out to Aaron. So I figured you three could talk to him since you're all in Gryffindor, Hagrid said hopefully. After a few seconds of silence, Hagrid sighed slightly. Alright, fine. If you don't want to help, you don't want to help. There'll be other opportunities. But those who designed those institutions. Wait, Hagrid, Harry said, pausing in thought before making a decision. We'll help. Harry. Hermione interrupted, shaking her head, her face pale. Hermione, I know what I'm doing. It's obvious which is more important, some magic stone or a pet cat. I agree with Harry, Ron chimed in. We're just borrowing, not stealing. Plus, we'll keep an eye on Hagrid the whole time and make sure Abe doesn't get hurt or upset. We'll give him back in a couple of hours, tops. It shouldn't be a big deal. Hermione's chest tightened in anger. Loan or not, it was still a lie, no matter how you sliced it. You'll regret this. Count me out. You're on your own. Hermione stormed out of Hagrid's hut, leaving the three of them to stare after her. Once outside, she hesitated about telling Aaron, but after some thought, she decided against it. Harry and Ron probably wouldn't succeed anyway. And if she told Aaron, Harry and Ron would know instantly that she had ratted them out. Back in the hut, Harry looked a little sheepish. "Hagrid, we'll do our best to help you borrow Abe, but you have to tell us who helped design the defenses around the Sorcerer's Stone, after you're done. It's really important to us." "Of course." Hagrid nodded. "But it's a secret, got it? I can tell you, but you can't tell anyone else. If you can't promise me that, then even if you hand me Abe on a silver platter, I won't say a word." Harry and Ron exchanged grins. Hagrid was still Hagrid, and his principles were as firm as ever. That was good. That meant it wouldn't be easy for Snape to trick the information about Fluffy out of him. The next day, in the Great Hall, Aaron had brought Abe to lunch. Harry and Ron exchanged a look and sprung into action. A few minutes later, they sat down across from Aaron. On top of their usual favorites, they both had a chicken leg on their plates. They'd put some serious thought into this. Asking to borrow Abe outright was out of the question, they just weren't that close to Aaron. So they had to get creative. How do you catnap a cat? Simple, give it what it wants. It likes chicken legs, right? Then chicken legs it is. All the food at Hogwarts was free anyway, so it wouldn't cost them anything. If they could just make Abe happy enough to let them hang out with him for a little while, Aaron wouldn't refuse. It might actually work. Sure enough, they'd barely sat down when the white cat across from them started drooling, staring longingly at their plates. "You little glutton, you're hopeless when it comes to food," Aaron said, shaking his head, and lightly tapped Abe on the nose to snap him out of his trance. "No problem," Harry said with a smile, pushing the chicken legs on his plate towards Abe. Abe stared at the chicken leg inches away for a few seconds, but he resisted the urge to devour it, even wiping his mouth with his paw. Then, he looked at Aaron with wide, pleading eyes, pointed at the chicken legs, and seemed to say, "I want to eat this." Harry and Ron were amazed. No wonder Hagrid was so interested in this cat. It was unbelievable. Are all pets this well behaved these days? Ron said, dumbfounded, suddenly thinking about his pet rat, Scabbers, and feeling a pang of despair. Compared to that cat, Spot was slovenly, ugly, and lazy. Self-discipline. He only wants extra food because his eating is regulated, Aaron said, shaking his head, then patting Abe on the head. "Just this once, got it? Don't expect it every time." Abe nodded eagerly, then grabbed the chicken leg and started chomping. "Aaron, your cat is so smart," Harry said admiringly. "And he seems to listen to you really well." "Yeah, Abe's been with me since he was born. I raised him to be this fat and fluffy all by myself," Aaron said proudly. Raising a dragon for several months had given him a sense of accomplishment. It was still a little ways from evolving, though. He needed to use magic points to evolve it later so he could quickly awaken his second talent skill. "Oh. I see." Ron also offered up the chicken leg on his plate, glanced at Harry, and cautiously reached out his right hand. But when his fingers were still inches away from Abe, Abe suddenly stopped eating, turned, and bared his teeth at Ron, making him jump back. "Aaron, is he always so grumpy?" Ron asked, confused. "I just gave him a chicken leg. Why can't I even touch him?" Sorry, he doesn't let guys touch him without my permission. Aside from my family, Draco and Hermione are the only ones at school who have held him," Aaron explained. Harry and Ron exchanged a look. It just got a lot harder to catnap this cat. Chapter 47 The Two Cat Dealers Tactics Upgrade. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Gryffindor Common Room. Harry and Ron sat at a table, looking glum. "What am I supposed to do?" Ron asked, sounding defeated. The original plan was to win Abe over first. The idea was that if they got in his good graces, then asked Aaron for a favor, they'd get way more bang for their buck, but after days of offering chicken legs, Abe had eaten nearly 20 and still didn't seem to like them. This just made the two feel even guiltier. Aaron was starting to get annoyed because they were spoiling Abe rotten, and had actually made him put on weight. When Aaron held up the slightly chubby white cat and told them to stop feeding him, they were so embarrassed they could have dug a hole to China with their feet. "How should I know?" Harry said, equally frustrated. "We have to scrap the plan for now. That cat is cute, but he's a bottomless pit. If we keep feeding him, Snape will probably just run off with the Sorcerer's Stone." "Ugh." Ron groaned, slumping on the sofa. "There's no way we can butter Abe up. He's not that easy to get around, and Aaron might not even lend it to us." Harry paused, looked around to make sure no one was listening, and lowered his voice. "So, you're saying we should just steal him? That doesn't feel right. Even though Aaron's a Slytherin, he's still our friend." "Harry, I know it's a bit low, but got any better ideas? Think about Snape. You don't want him getting his hands on the Sorcerer's Stone. Besides, we aren't going to hurt Abe. We'd just be borrowing him for an hour as a thank you for all those chicken legs." Harry was somewhat persuaded, but worried. "What if we get caught?" "No chance," Ron said confidently. "Don't forget, you've got that invisibility cloak. Aaron can't keep Abe glued to him all the time. Like, what about when he goes to the bathroom? As long as we're careful, snatching a cat shouldn't be too hard." Harry winced. This plan sounded pretty low down. And if they got caught, it could ruin their friendship with Aaron. The risk felt way too high. "No, we can't do this. It's too much. We'd be like, catnappers." Well. Ron backpedaled, forcing an awkward smile. "Just spitballing here. If you've got a better idea, let's hear it." Harry opened his mouth to speak, but hesitated. He knew this awful idea was probably the only one they had. What if Aaron notices the cat is missing? "Ha! Dude," Ron laughed. "Abe's a cat, right? It's totally normal for him to wander off when his owner isn't looking, as long as he doesn't disappear for too long. We show him to Hagrid, then set him loose, and he'll automatically run back to Aaron. Cats can't talk. It'll all look natural, no red flags." "Wait." Harry sat up straight. "I've got an idea." "What is it?" Ron asked, curious. "You said he's a cat, right? What do cats do?" "Catch mice. What if we let Scabbers wander in front of Aaron when he goes to the bathroom, and then lead him to Hagrid's hut? Wouldn't that work?" "No way." Ron slammed his fist on the table. "Absolutely not. That's even worse. Harry, you know cats can catch mice, but they can also eat mice. What if Scabbers doesn't get away? He's been with me for ages, I can't risk him like that." "Sorry," Harry said, shamefaced. "So, does that mean we're back to stealing?" "Yeah, but we need a solid plan," Ron said, crossing his arms, looking serious. "Remember, Abe's alive. If he's suddenly grabbed, he's going to fight back. We don't want him making a scene." "Right." Harry agreed. "I bet Hagrid would have some ideas." The next day, they went to the gamekeeper's hut. After they explained the reason for their visit, the honest giant looked troubled. "Are you sure about this? Maybe you should just forget about it." "Then tell us who helped design the traps to protect the Sorcerer's Stone," Harry shot back. "Well, obviously not." Hagrid looked even more uncomfortable, his bushy beard all bunched up. Telling them outright was out of the question. Deep down, he didn't want them getting further involved. He'd rather stall them. But he wasn't about to mess with dangerous pets. He had a feeling that Aaron's animals were more than ordinary, maybe even magical creatures. "All right then," Harry said with a sigh. "But why come to me? I can't help you." "Come on, Hagrid. You're the only one at Hogwarts who can." Nobody knows animals better than you, so you must know something that will put Abe to sleep. Shoo. Hagrid glanced around nervously. Who told you that? Harry and Ron exchanged a knowing look and grinned. So, you do have something. Hagrid rolled his eyes and began rummaging through a box in the corner. After about half a minute, he pulled out a small purple bottle. Special sleeping potion. This stuff only works on animals, not people. But if it's a magical creature, it might not work as well. The more powerful the magical creature, the less effective it is. On a dragon or phoenix, for example, unless it's a baby, this stuff is basically just water. That's fine. It's just a cat, not a dragon, Ron said with a grin. He had no idea how wrong he was. All right. I can give you this, but be careful with the dosage, Hagrid warned. With Abe's size, just one drop will keep him asleep for 2 hours. And you have to give me the bottle back when you're done. Got it. Harry grabbed the bottle and pulled Ron out of Hagrid's hut. They headed straight back to the common room and started going over the plan. Staring at the purple vial on the table, their excitement grew with every minute. They knew it wasn't the nicest thing to do, but they were 11-year-old kids, and something this interesting and exciting was too tempting to resist. What are you two doing? Why are you so happy? Hermione came over, carrying a stack of study guides. Ron quickly hid the sleeping potion on the table. Nothing. We were just talking about Quidditch. Really? Hermione asked, a little suspicious. Of course. What else would make us this happy? Harry said. Unless Malfoy fell into the toilet or Snape got fired. Hermione rolled her eyes. I won't even comment on Snape, but what did Draco do to you guys recently? Does he need to do something new? He was a jerk the first day of school, Ron replied, annoyed. That bossy attitude is just like his dad, Lucius Malfoy. Harry nodded in agreement. He didn't like Malfoy's snobby attitude either. Whatever. Hermione said, slapping the stack of papers on the table. Here's something to actually make you happy. If you memorize all this for the finals, you'll be set. Hermione. Ron exclaimed, his eyes wide. Are you sure this is just for the finals? Our textbooks stacked together aren't even this high. What's with the attitude? These are my study notes. Tons of people have asked for them, but I haven't given them to anyone. Yeah, but it's way too much. Harry said with a weak smile. They didn't exactly excel at academics. They'd be happy just to pass. But Hermione was setting them up for a mission impossible, getting perfect scores in every subject. Hermione knew it was unrealistic to expect them to memorize everything. You don't have to memorize it all. Just read through it a few times so you at least know what to write on the test. Harry and Ron exchanged a look of resignation. No matter how lazy they were, they had to suck it up when facing the school's top student. By the way, has Hagrid loosened up yet? Nope. Harry shook his head. Still the same. How about Abe? The two slackers glanced at each other with knowing looks and shook their heads in unison, looking dejected. Their acting wasn't perfect, but it was full of genuine frustration. Ugh. Harry sighed dramatically. Ron chimed in, that cat never gives us a chance. Chapter 48. This dragon is also well educated. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Hermione frowned, sensing she was being deceived, though she couldn't prove it. Here's a little advice, don't get any ideas you shouldn't. If you really can't help yourselves, maybe just have a heart-to-heart with Aaron. Better to just forget it, Harry said, shaking his head. You know the odds of Aaron agreeing are slim to none. And it'll definitely tip off the snake, making it even harder for us to, borrow it, Ron added. Bottom line, just drop it. Harry and I will figure something out. Okay, Hermione said, patting her review materials. Just don't forget what's really important. Harry and Ron glanced at the towering pile of study notes, nodded resignedly, and watched her leave. Once she was gone, Ron pulled out the purple vial. "Alright, let's get our stuff ready. Day of rest, then we strike when the iron's hot tomorrow." The next day after class, they tailed Aaron, keeping their distance. Seeing the well-groomed, lively white cat trotting beside him, they exchanged a look of helplessness. They followed him from the classroom to the grounds, the great hall, and then to the library. Inside the library, they hit a snag. Aaron pulled out a permission slip and, with Mrs. Pance's okay, strolled right into the restricted section. "Well, crap," Ron groaned. "He'll be in there for hours, I bet." "Don't sweat it," Harry countered. "Patience is a virtue. We've already come this far. A few more hours won't kill us." "Guess not." They shot each other a look, then slumped down at an empty table, pulled out Hermione's top-notch notes, and began the agonizing review. They intended to actually study, but after 10 minutes, both were fighting yawns. "I swear Hermione put a sleeping curse on these things," Ron muttered with a weak smile. It wasn't that he didn't want to try, but those notes had so many words it was practically hypnotic. "Hang in there," Harry mumbled, already half asleep. "We can't let Malfoy beat us." Ron just stared. Was he really being serious right now? Almost 2 hours later, Aaron emerged from the restricted section, a book tucked under his arm. "Ron! Ron!" Harry shook Ron awake. "Huh? What?" Ron blinked, trying to focus. "He's out." "What?" Ron shot up, instantly alert. They scrambled to stash the notes and quietly trailed Aaron, but the moment they stepped out of the library, they felt like idiots, because Aaron was standing right there, grinning at them. "Care to explain why you two are my shadows today?" Ron stammered, "Who's following you? Got any proof?" "Fair point. But I doubt our schedules just happen to perfectly align." "Total coincidence," Harry said, avoiding eye contact, but sounding as confident as possible. "We just happened to be going to the grounds to watch Quidditch practice, grabbed a bite to eat, and then did some reading in the library. Happens all the time." "Really?" Aaron clearly wasn't buying it. Plenty of students did those things, sure, but not while practically glued to his heels. He still couldn't figure out what they were up to. "Absolutely," Ron said with a straight face. "Okay, I'll play along. So, where are you two headed next? Just let me know so I can steer clear, for everyone's sake." Harry and Ron exchanged worried glances. They knew they were busted. Having alerted the enemy, their only option was damage control. "Aaron, we actually wanted to ask you for a favor," Harry said, looking sheepish. "Oh." Aaron raised an eyebrow. "Just ask, then. Helping is my call. No need to play these stalking games. And by the way, your spy skills are seriously lacking." "Ha." Harry gave a nervous laugh, then pulled out Hermione's notes. "See, we're trying to cram for the finals, and Hermione's put us through some brutal training. She wants us to memorize everything. Here, take a look." Aaron took the notebook, looking skeptical, and flipped through it. Can't fault the notes. Super detailed, pretty much flawless. You're lucky to have a friend like Hermione, honestly. "So, what's the favor?" We were hoping you could convince Hermione to lighten up a bit," Harry said, nudging Ron. Ron caught on. "Yeah, we tried studying, but we were falling asleep after, 10 minutes. You spent all day following me around just for this?" Aaron stared at them, speechless. He wondered if these two had a few screws loose. Seeing that he was buying their story, Harry felt a surge of relief. "You know Hermione. She'd freak if we asked her directly. Plus, she means well. It'd be even worse if we said something. But you're different. You're her best friend here at Hogwarts. She'll listen to you. You guys are something else." Aaron shook his head. "Sorry, but I can't help you with this one. Me sticking my nose in would only make things worse. Hermione's smart. She'd figure out you sent me. If you're really miserable, you should just tell her. Honesty is the best policy. With that, Aaron turned and left. Phew. Times two that they both let out a sigh of relief, but a sense of frustration lingered. Great. Now what? Harry said with a wry smile. We dodged a bullet, but we can't tail him anymore, or he'll definitely get suspicious. Right. We can't exactly camp out in the Slytherin common room. I don't even know the password. Guess we need a new plan. Bathroom, Harry and Ron, hidden under the invisibility cloak, crouched anxiously by the door. A waiting game was the dumbest, safest idea they'd come up with after a sleepless night. It just took forever. Since the end of class, dozens of people had used the restroom, but no sign of their target. Harry, can we please go? I'm starting to feel like a creep. Just a little longer. We've waited this long. Aaron's gotta show up eventually. We've been here for 3 hours. The longer we wait, the better our chances. Could be worse. Ron mumbled, but he continued to wait with Harry. Their patience paid off, because a few minutes later, Aaron finally arrived. Seeing the white cat with him, they were thrilled and ready to make their move. Aaron went into the bathroom, leaving Abe on the sink, guarding the entrance like a little sentry. You got the stuff? Ready. Ron immediately produced a lunchbox with 2 chicken legs inside. Okay, here goes everything. They crept forward, opened the box carefully, and set it gently on the floor. Under the cloak, they waved their robes, trying to waft the aroma of chicken out as much as possible. Abe, perched on the sink and admiring himself in the mirror, caught a whiff. His ears perked up instantly, and the hat on his head lifted a good inch. He scanned the area, then walked over to the door and spotted the tempting lunchbox. Abe's eyes widened, becoming unusually alert, because he clearly recognized his favorite food. Eat it, eat it. They thought excitedly. They'd been preparing for this moment for days, but what happened next left them speechless, confused, and totally deflated. Abe approached the lunchbox and sniffed cautiously, then glanced around, his gaze lingering on the spot where the cloak was. After confirming that no one was there, a hint of suspicion crept into his intelligent eyes. Seconds later, the white cat suppressed the urge to eat, wiped the drool from his mouth, used his paws to close the lunchbox, and walked with it into the bathroom. You cannot eat food that has fallen on the ground, let alone food that seems to be someone else's. This is the master's teaching, and this dragon is also well educated. Chapter 49 finally got dragged onto the pirate ship. You are listening at novelfull.audio. What? Ron's eyes bugged out. How could this happen? Hagrid suspects the cat, but even the most well-behaved cat has its limits. Harry exclaimed. Forget it for now, just grab your stuff and let's bail. Bail? After all this waiting? Ron whined. They'd worked so hard for days, their plan was airtight, and now this? We can't bail. Aaron's gonna come out any minute now. What do you think he'll say when he sees a couple of chicken legs lying around? Ron started to protest, but then they heard water running in the bathroom. Harry knew they were out of time. He quickly shoved the lunchbox away and clapped a hand over Ron's mouth. Aaron walked out of the door, and they whisked the invisibility cloak away. They traded helpless looks. That cat's definitely got it in for us, Ron muttered. Ugh. Harry sighed. If Hagrid hadn't been so insistent, I would have given up already. No way, Harry. I'm not letting a cat get the better of me like this. Are you? Of course not. Then we're going back to the drawing board. I refuse to believe the two of us can't outsmart a cat. Harry thought for a moment and nodded firmly. Back in the Gryffindor common room, they resumed their gloomy expressions. The delicious food angle is shot, Ron said. Abe's too cautious to eat food from strangers, especially if it's just left in a corner. Nah, that's not it, Harry countered. It's not that the food isn't good. You saw him drooling, practically from the door to the sink, but he was holding himself back. So, what's your point? It's a people thing, Harry said confidently. He only feels safe eating when Aaron's around. Figures, Ron said with a wry smile. If Aaron was here, they wouldn't be able to snatch Abe even if it was asleep. They couldn't exactly tie up both the guy and his cat, right? The whole thing had changed, and they didn't have the guts for it anymore. Even if they did, they probably couldn't pull it off. Aaron got props from all the professors, and he'd even faced down a troll with Snape. Compared to that, he and Harry didn't stand a chance. Maybe there's another way, Harry said hesitantly. Aaron said there were 2 people at school Abe would let his guard down around. One is Draco, and the other is Hermione. Ron asked, surprised and a little weirded out. You're not thinking what I think you're thinking, are you? I am. No way, Harry. Have you forgotten she was against us messing with Abe in the first place? There's no way she'll agree to help us. It's a long shot, but it's the only option we have. If we want to do Hagrid's favor, we have 4 possible paths. One is Aaron. There's no way he'll let Hagrid examine his pet. 0 chance, scratch that. The second is Abe himself. We've tried for days and made some progress, but our feeding attempts aren't working. Call it a 10% chance. The third is Malfoy. He could hold Abe and feed him like Aaron does. Definitely not, Ron said dismissively. No need to even think about it. His odds are negative. So, that leaves Hermione. She's good friends with Aaron and can hold Abe no problem. Plus, she knows everything about the Sorcerer's Stone, Fluffy, Snape, the works. If we just appeal to her sense of. Don't forget groveling, Ron added glumly. Yeah, groveling, Harry said, his mouth twisting. They both knew that if they were willing to swallow their pride and ask Hermione, she wouldn't turn them down, but that was the hardest part. It was a major hit to their egos. I guess I'll go grovel. It's our last chance. We need to know who designed those security measures to understand what Snape's up to. Fine. Grovel away. Ron nodded, trying to sound enthusiastic. As long as we stop Snape, we'll have done a great service to Hogwarts. Maybe I'll get 100 points at the end of the year and we'll win the House Cup. They made up their minds and pulled out the notes Hermione had given them, forcing themselves to study. If you're going to ask someone for a favor, you have to look like you're serious. If Hermione saw how hard they were working and that they weren't just blowing her off, she'd be more likely to listen. But reality didn't match their vision. They wanted to look impressive, but Hermione didn't show up until after curfew. By then, they were practically falling asleep, but they still looked like they were studying like crazy, but really they looked kinda ridiculous. You're really pushing yourselves, Hermione said, her lips twitching. Studying needs to be balanced with rest. You guys should go to bed. Hearing her voice, they snapped to attention, their bleary eyes lighting up. Hermione, you're back. Ron exclaimed, almost crying with relief. I haven't been gone that long. What's the big deal? Seriously. Harry adjusted his glasses. It's like they say, a day apart is like 3 years. I get it now. That's really sweet. But you should go to bed. You're in no condition to be sitting here. Hermione, we need to talk to you about something, Harry said hesitantly. Is it important? Well, it depends on your definition of important. Then let's talk about it tomorrow, Hermione said, gathering her notes. It's Sunday. We can take our time. Harry and Ron shuffled toward the boys' dorm, defeated. Apparently, fighting off sleep was a challenge. The next day, Harry and Ron gave up on the charade and just told Hermione about their cat-baiting plan 3.0. Hermione stared at them in disbelief. So, you failed twice. And now you want me to help you steal Abe? Basically, Harry mumbled, like a kid caught with his hand in the cookie jar. Seriously? Hermione rolled her eyes. I should turn you in, and you want me to help you do this? I can't even believe what you're asking. Hermione, we know this is awkward, but we wouldn't be here if we had any other choice. It took us forever to come up with this plan. If you help us, we have at least a 70% chance of pulling it off. Higher, Harry. At least 80%. Sorry, I'm out, Hermione said firmly. I'll help you with other stuff, but I can't do this. I'd be too embarrassed to face him again. As long as we don't get caught, Ron said, our plan is solid. It'll only take an hour to satisfy Hagrid's curiosity. No way, Hermione said, waving her hands. His curiosity shouldn't be satisfied like that, and I refuse to be your accomplice. Yeah, I get it, Ron scoffed. It's because Abe belongs to Aaron, isn't it? If it was anyone else, you wouldn't be saying no so fast. Hermione stammered, looking flustered. It would be the same no matter who it was. Harry, forget it. The two of us combined aren't worth one Slytherin. Ron. Harry snapped, glaring at him. What we're doing isn't exactly noble. But we're doing it for the right reasons. We worked for months to protect the Sorcerer's Stone, and now we're being stopped by a cat. We're swallowing our pride to ask her for help, and she's turning us down without a second thought. Hermione helped us find out about Nicolas Flamel, but is this how a friend is supposed to act? Ron. Harry was losing it. Hermione's decision has nothing to do with being a friend, and you shouldn't be pushing her like this. Okay, enough, Hermione said, tossing her hair back. Fine, I'll help you. Really? Harry grinned, feeling like all his Christmases had come at once. Yes, but you have to make sure nothing goes wrong. If we get caught, we're all in trouble. Don't worry about it. We guarantee it, Ron said, puffing out his chest. If anything happens, we'll take the blame. You won't be involved. Chapter 50, Sleeping Pills Become Ecstasy. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Hermione felt a little regret after agreeing to help, but she wasn't about to go back on her word, so, what did they need to snatch Abe? Someone familiar, a drumstick, and sleeping pills. With all the ingredients in place, Hermione still felt uneasy, but Harry and Ron were brimming with confidence, convinced they'd succeed this time. By dinnertime, students from all four houses crowded around the long tables in the great hall. As usual, Aaron set down his pet and tucked into his food, keeping things orderly. Down at the Gryffindor table, Ron and Harry exchanged glances, then gave Hermione a knowing look. Her turn. If she blew it now, they'd have to wait for another opportunity. Hermione hesitated for a moment, then got up and walked over to Aaron. Before she could say a word, Aaron asked, Hermione, what's up? Well, with the finals coming up, I'm a little stressed. I was wondering if I could borrow Abe for a while. Hermione said, looking embarrassed. The little guy is so cuddly, it's really relaxing. Abe suddenly lifted its head, looking all proud, like it wasn't even impressed by the praise. Still, the hat on its head inexplicably lifted a centimeter, betraying its secret delight. Stressed? Draco, sitting across from Aaron, couldn't help but chime in. Are you kidding? I'm the one under pressure. If my dad finds out I lost to you, he'll ream me. Then maybe you should study harder. As long as your grades aren't lower than mine, you'll be fine, Hermione retorted. She didn't have much patience for Malfoy. Draco sputtered. He knew Hermione, the brainiac, was way ahead of him, but he couldn't let her get the best of him. I'll prove you wrong. We'll see. Hermione said, then turned to Aaron. So, can I borrow Abe for the night? Aaron hesitated. If it were just a cat, he wouldn't think twice about lending it. But this was a dragon. Most girls couldn't resist Abe, but once they noticed the wings under its clothes, all hell would break loose. If it's too much trouble, forget it. I don't want to put you on the spot, Hermione said, sounding a little disappointed, but secretly relieved. If Aaron refused, Harry and Ron's plan would fail, and she wouldn't have to kidnap the cat against her will. Actually, it's not impossible, Aaron said. But you have to promise to take good care of it, and be careful nobody touches it, and especially don't take off its clothes. So it sleeps in its clothes? Hermione asked, puzzled. Abe suddenly looked crestfallen. Even though the clothes were custom-made by jeans, super stretchy, and breathable enough to double as pajamas, it only got to take them off when changing. The dragon missed being free. That's right. Aaron rubbed Abe's head. This guy gets cold easily. Oh, okay. I promise I'll take good care of it, Hermione said firmly. As for what happened next, she couldn't guarantee it. She just hoped Harry and Ron's plan would go smoothly and nothing would go wrong. Great. I'll give it to you after dinner. Hermione nodded and headed back to the Gryffindor table, hoping Aaron wouldn't notice the worried look on her face. You're actually going to let her borrow it? Draco asked, looking suspicious. Aaron usually treated Abe like it was priceless, and nobody was allowed to get close. I keep my promises, Aaron shrugged. Besides, it's not a big deal. If you wanted to borrow it, I don't know if I could do it. Really? Draco perked up. Just as he was about to say something, Abe, who was calmly waiting for its next bite, suddenly bared its teeth at him, making him lose all enthusiasm. Never mind. I'm not a girl. I don't need cute things to make me feel better when I'm stressed. I have my own ways of blowing off steam, Draco said huffily, then turned to Crabbe and Goyle, who were busy stuffing their faces. You two, come with me for a walk after dinner. Sure thing, boss, Crabbe mumbled through a mouthful of food. Goyle just nodded enthusiastically. A walk after eating was always a good idea. Sigh. Draco sighed. He was stuck with these two. They were loyal, but their skills were only a so-so. Meanwhile, Hermione returned to her seat, where she was greeted by two inquisitive stares. Don't worry. Aaron said yes. But you two absolutely have to make sure nothing goes wrong. Absolutely no problem, Harry emphasized the word absolutely. We have the invisibility cloak. Nobody will see a thing. Hermione said nothing, seeing how confident they were. She just wanted this over and done with. Every extra second was torture. After dinner, the Great Hall started to empty out. Only a handful of stragglers from each house remained, mostly gluttons. Let's go, Draco said, pulling his two cronies along. Aaron nodded, then looked at Abe solemnly. This is your first time staying somewhere else. Remember to behave yourself, okay? Abe nodded, then rubbed against Aaron's hand, looking reluctant. It's okay. I trust Hermione, nothing bad will happen. Besides, you have to grow up sometime. We can't stay together forever. Think of this as practice. Aaron comforted it for a moment before leading it to the Gryffindor table. By then, only 5 people remained at the long table, 2 older students, Hermione, and Harry and Ron. Hermione. Hearing the sudden call, Hermione couldn't help but flinch, then turned around sheepishly. Sorry, I was lost in thought and didn't see you there. Sounds like you're feeling the pressure, Aaron teased, then placed Abe in her arms. Here you go. Just give it back to me when you see me in the morning. Okay, Hermione whispered, not even daring to look up. Is she okay? Aaron asked, frowning. She's fine, Harry said. Hermione's just a little tired. She needs to go back to the dorm and get some sleep. Aaron didn't suspect a thing and turned to leave. It wasn't until he was out of the Great Hall that Hermione finally let out a sigh of relief. She glared at Harry and Ron. Don't you ever ask me to do something like this again. Ever. Or I swear, I'm done with you too. We know, there won't be a next time, Ron said, pulling out a chicken leg that he'd saved specially for this occasion. I brought something good for it. Abe's eyes lit up at the sight of the chicken leg, but then it glanced guiltily at Hermione. "Oh, go on. Eat it if you want." Abe instantly jumped onto the table and started gnawing, oblivious to the triumphant grins on the faces of the two boys across from it. Seeing Abe's reaction, Harry and Ron's confidence soared. They knew better than anyone how hard the last few days had been. Abe ate fast, and it only took a minute to polish off the chicken leg. Soon, a bare bone lay on the plate. Abe patted its belly contentedly. Just as it was about to jump back into Hermione's arms, it suddenly felt dizzy, and its vision went blurry. It stumbled, stretched out its paws, and then collapsed on the table. Hermione picked it up immediately and patted its head, looking distressed. "Abe will be okay. Relax, I only added 3 drops. It should wake up in about 6 hours. Wait." Harry frowned. "How much did you say you added?" 3 drops of sleeping pills. Ha! Harry facepalmed. "I was worried you'd forget, so I added 3 more drops." Ron was speechless. Good grief. That dose would knock out an elephant. Ahem. It's okay, really. 1 drop is supposed to make an animal sleep for 2 hours, so 6 drops should last until dawn. That means we'll have plenty of time. And if you wake it up tomorrow morning, Hermione, Aaron will be none the wiser. "I guess," Hermione murmured softly. She didn't want any part of this plan, but since she was already in it this far, she had no choice but to go along for the ride.